Welcome to Confident Connections, the podcast that helps you show up with confidence and connect with people on a deeper level. I'm Lisa Liu, and here we break down the small signals that create big impact, body language, presence, and the simple habits that help you communicate with ease, increase your influence, and magnify your impact. You'll learn how to make strong first impressions, build trust faster, and feel more confident in any conversation or setting. If you're ready to improve your communication skills and create connections that move your life and your leadership forward, you are in the right place. Okay, I want to give you a recommendation on something I've been using for years that tastes amazing, easy to cook with, heat stable, and tastes like chocolate donuts with 0 grams of sugar and 15 grams of protein. Are you ready for it? It is a bone broth collagen in the form of a powder, and I'm telling you, if you get the chocolate, thank me later, it tastes like chocolate donuts, although they do have other flavors if you don't care for chocolate. If you need a refresher on some of the benefits of collagen, it can help support metabolism, gut health, improve digestion. It can lower the risk of heart disease. It helps with arthritis and supports joints. It's even been known to help with hair and nail growth. If you're not on a collagen supplement and you're looking for a very high quality grass-fed variety, this is it. It's incredibly clean. It's incredibly delicious. No sugar, 15 grams of protein. I use it in recipes. I use it in my coffee. I use it in my smoothies. It's unbelievable. You can go get it at lisaluimpact.com/bone broth. That's lisaluimpact.com/bone broth. It's also down in the show notes. Try it, and I want to hear back from you. What did you think? lisaluimpact.com/bone broth. Hey friend, welcome to the Confident Connections podcast. I'm so honored to have you here with me today. Episode number 1 was an introduction into this podcast, why I'm here, why I'm even doing this in the first place, and it really sets up what you can expect with these episodes. So if you missed that episode, be sure to go back and give that a listen. And we're going to jump right into the juicy stuff today. So what we're going to be talking about is competence and warmth. And really what the mix of these two equates to is charisma. And, you know, a lot of people assume you're either born a charismatic person or you're not. Or you probably, the moment I say the word charisma, you may conjure up pictures of someone in your mind that is super outgoing, very friendly, very extroverted. And what I want to help you understand is you do not have to be that personality type to be considered charismatic. When we pull back the layers of what charisma actually is, it's helping the person in front of you feel seen, understood, valued, and worthy, really, which is what at a core level we all want in this life. We want to feel that. So if you can help somebody feel that way, you are charismatic and you will be seen by them as being charismatic. So what does that practically even look like though? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in the next few minutes. You know, Vanessa Van Edwards is the queen of body language. I have learned so much from her, and she is the one that really encouraged me. She doesn't know this. It's not like we're besties or she even knows my name, but listening to her really propelled me into wanting to become certified in body language. I was already a certified behavioral consultant. I love communication. I love teaching about communication, hosting workshops, doing keynotes. But this nonverbal essence of the whole communication picture was such a draw and so intriguing to me. And I believe I talked about that a little bit in episode 1 and why I'm so drawn to that based on my past. But warmth and competence, I really understood this first from her. And so let me break that down a little bit. So how do you know if you are more warm or more competent? Because we typically lean one way or another. And let me back up by saying when somebody meets us for the first time, what they want to immediately know is, are we trustworthy? And Can we handle the situation? Can we be relied upon, or are we competent? Okay. So we're putting these two in two buckets, warmth and competence. But we all do have a tendency to lean one way or another. So highly warm people, you will often hear things like this. I always feel so comfortable around you. You are such a sweetheart. I feel like I've known you forever. You have a very trustworthy face. Highly warm people are the kind of people who are great team players. They're great collaborators. They're the ones that often have the listening ear. But oftentimes they can desire that likability and lose out on some respect, right? So if we are overly warm and we don't have enough competent signals when we meet somebody or engage with people, then we could kind of miss out on some opportunities and not give off the impression we desire. Here's some archetypes to help you understand, who are warm types of people. And these are types that everybody should understand. So number one, elf. Think elf, think highly warm, okay? Pam Beasley from The Office. If you are an Office fan, Pam is very warm. She's very friendly. She's also often overlooked or maybe not respected as much as she could be. And then Betty White, in so many roles she played, but certainly in The Golden Girls, highly, highly warm. So does that help a little bit put a picture in your mind of being a highly warm person? Now, let me preface this before I go to highly competent people, we all have a mix of both. Seldom are we only one or only the other, but we typically tend to lean a little bit more one way or another. So that's what I want you to have in your mind as we go through this. So let's talk about highly competent people, because they will often hear things like, I never know what you're thinking. Or, you know what, you can be a little bit intimidating. Or you're really hard to read. Or you must be in charge here. Right? So when we think about somebody that's highly competent, they can seem aloof, intimidating, all of those things. So here are some archetypes. Elsa from Frozen. You talk about competent. How about Mr. Wonderful if you're a Shark Tank fan? Elon Musk is another one, or Mark Zuckerberg. These are people that you can tell they can get the job done, but are they going to be warm? Or is there that friendliness factor that just draws us and thinks, wow, they're so approachable? Not in that list, there's not. Okay. So if you're that person and you're like, you know what, I think I lean more warm based on what you just said, then you need to just balance things out with some competent signals. So let's talk about that for a moment. What could that look like? So the distance between our earlobe and our shoulder is very much related to our confidence, which we're actually going to talk about in next week's episode. So confidence and competence are not exactly synonymous. So I want to make sure I'm saying the word correctly so that you hear me. Because a highly warm person can be an incredibly confident person. And the way that we visually assess that is how close are their shoulders to their ears. When we're not as confident, we often kind of shrug a little bit, okay? So if you lean more warm, you may just have your shoulders up a little higher than you need to, and you need to relax them. Another signal for you is to steady your hands and feet. Highly warm people, sometimes we can tend to fidget. And I say we because I tend to be more on that warm side, okay? I've really had to work on my competent signals. And so big hand gestures and fidgeting can be seen as a lower competence sign, okay, or sign. So we want to just be sure that we're steady and we're grounded. It does not mean we have to stand like a statue and not use our hands, not by a long shot. But it does mean we need to be careful that we're not being distracting by our gestures, because it can look like we are low in competence and confidence. And the last one I'll mention here is something called the Clinton box. So I just alluded to very large hand gestures. Highly warm people, especially if they are extroverted, can tend to make large sweeping gestures with their hands. This is, please hear me. If you're like, yeah, I'm highly warm, but I do not do that, that's okay. We're all individual. I'm not putting you in a box. but these are things we may have a tendency to do. So there's something called the Clinton box, and I won't even explain how that came about, that verbiage, but it's actually very interesting. You can Google it and look into it. But basically, you want to think of a box about right under your chin and about shoulder width apart and your waist. And when you make hand gestures, keep them in this box. That way you don't look like you're flailing, and it's not this low confidence or even just wildly distracting motions with your hands. So stay within that Clinton box. Okay, so those are some signals if you tend to lean highly warm. Now, if you tend to lean more highly competent, we need to balance this with some warmth signals. One really easy one is just to smile. Highly competent people may come across as serious. Remember when I said they can be told they're hard to read, I don't know what you're thinking. Just a soft smile can really diffuse that anxiety that somebody may have in your presence if they feel intimidated. It softens you a bit. Another signal for you is a head tilt. Very slight head tilt, and not to stay there, but when we tilt our head, we automatically expose our most vulnerable part of our body, which is our jugular. And we're also positioning our ear to where we can hear the person the best. So that slight head tilt tells the person in front of you, I care about what you're saying and I want to hear you the best that I possibly can. Wow, you talk about a charismatic move, especially if you lean highly competent, that right there is a game changer. And the last one I'll mention for our highly competent friends is an eyebrow flash. I learned about this for the first time listening to an FBI agent, and when he was talking about just those first impressions and really kind of he was speaking about how to read people specific to like those who were in trouble, right? Breaking the law. But for us, this is so important to understand. So an eyebrow flash just means your eyebrows go up and down very, very quickly, and it's a very subtle move. They're not going way up on your head. We do this naturally and subconsciously when we meet someone and we feel comfortable in their presence. So understanding that, we can use the eyebrow flash intentionally to make sure those in our presence feel safe and see us as friend, not foe. So for a highly competent person, that one small movement can really diffuse potentially a tense person or situation and just make them feel a little more safe and secure in your presence. Pretty cool, right? So there's 3 simple tips depending on where you lean that my hope is that it will help you to bridge the gap and not be so one or the other, but to have a little bit more of a balance, because that balance equals charisma. That balance helps the person in front of you know that you are both trustworthy and can be relied upon, and it makes you charismatic. Period. The end. You do not have to be a raving extrovert. You just need to strike this balance, okay? All right. So what I want to do right now, and this is something I have decided to add to every single episode. So I read a book called Storyworthy by Matthew Dix, and I love storytelling and I want to be a better storyteller. So this book was fascinating to me. He has an exercise in there called Story for Life. So I want to give credit to the originator of this idea, although I'm going to call it something different, and my purpose is for something different because I believe with everything inside of me, this is going to be such a value add to you because I have seen it be to me. So Story for Life is where he says you just take a few minutes at the end of each day and write down something story-worthy about the day. Now, you may not be interested in telling stories, so what I want you to think about is, you can think about it that way. Is it story-worthy? For me, it's my memory of the day. So at the end of every day, I open a journal that I have specifically for this, and I write down my most memorable thing from the day. What I love about this is it's very short. I'm only writing 1 to 2 sentences. If you are a journaler, this is probably not for you because you're putting it in your whole journal. But hand to heaven, I want to journal so bad, but I feel so defeated when I don't do it consistently. And so then I just stop. What I love about this is it's bite-sized It's one or two sentences. You can go longer if you want, but it doesn't take me more than 1 or 2 minutes, maybe a little longer if I'm just trying to think about what was most memorable in the day. But I'm capturing these incredible memories that would be lost forever in my memory bank if I didn't write them down. So what I want to do with you each week is from the week prior, pull out my favorite memory of the day from the week in hopes that you will eventually adopt this practice too. Here's the real kicker, though, and why it ties into what we're doing here on this podcast. We're always looking for things to talk about. We're always looking for connections to make with other people. And oftentimes we think, my life is boring. I have nothing to talk about. But over time, you're going to see that your memory of the day is what sticks out in your mind and may just be the most amazing connection point for the person in front of you. Okay? You with me? So here's my memory of the day that I'm choosing from my last week of memories. And it is, let me find it. I wrote it down and I want to make sure I have the right one. Okay. So this past weekend, I went with my girlfriends to an antique shop. And when I'm on a mission, I'm just kind of on a mission, and I can tend to bypass people because of my mission. Well, we met the owner of this antique shop. It was myself and 3 other friends, and we end up in a conversation, and there was an easy lull in the conversation, and I made my way to kind of start looking at other things. But something inside of me was like, go back to her and to your other friends who are standing there, because it sounds like this conversation is continuing and you need to be there. It was just something in my spirit. I can't explain it, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to not be so focused on my goal of getting through this antique shop. I'm going to go back and listen to this conversation. And I'm so glad I did, because this woman told us a story, and this was 100% my memory of the day and therefore of this whole past week. She told the story. She was in her 60s right now, and she works in Alaska 4 months out of every year in I think it's minus 73 degrees around that outside. She works outside. I can't remember exactly what she does, but she's outside for a lot of it. And she was just hired within the past couple years to do this. Pretty remarkable right there, in her 60s. How many people get to be in their 50s and 60s and think, I'm not even hireable anymore, nobody will want me? Yet she was hired for an incredibly difficult job. But then she goes on to tell us that she was involved in a relationship, and it was her testimony. She was giving this beautiful testimony. But the high level of this testimony was that she was in a relationship with a gentleman who, when she found out that he had drug paraphernalia in his home, he beat her within an inch of her life, tied her with wire, and left her for 3 months with only enough food and water to survive, never allowing her to go to the bathroom. So I just want you to sit with that for a moment. For 3 months, she was tied up, and it was his son who found her. And when he found her, when she escaped, because he found her, this man she was in a relationship with threatened to kill her. Well, she decided to shoot herself, not just once, but twice, to end it all right there. She somehow survived that, was on life support, and survived it, and told the Lord, if you will help me, just out of this predicament, I will live my life for you. And she was already a Christian. She was already a believer, but she has done exactly that since. So what started as an interesting story about her getting a job in, the most frigid place on earth, basically. I don't know, maybe there's a colder place. And I don't know if I said Antarctica. I may have. It was Alaska. I'm not sure, but it was Alaska. And that was the beginning of her story, but it's where the story went from there and what she actually endured that was far more dangerous, far more incredible than those, sub-zero temperatures. And here she is living her life and honoring the Lord, which she already was before, but doing it like never before and sharing her testimony. It was remarkable. So I couldn't beat that particular memory this whole past week. So there you go. I wanted to share it with you. I hope you'll adopt the same thing. And look, if our topic today, what we discussed, is interesting to you, I want you to consider looking at a mini course that I've put together called the 2-Hour Confident Connection Kit. You can go learn more at lisaluimpact.com/kit. What I'm going to do is I will put it in the show notes so that you can go easily find it. It's incredibly inexpensive. It's yours to keep, and it is going to help you not only nail first impressions, but it's going to help you show up with more confidence in every single conversation and connection you make. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I absolutely can't wait for next week's topic, and I will see you then.